Hello, and welcome back to the Spa Business Mastery Podcast. I'm Kirsten Foss, and I'm really glad you are here because that probably means that you have either a spa business or some sort of service-based business that you are the owner of, and you're looking for some strategies and solutions for all of those aspects of the business. And today we're actually talking about risk and reward, really. And so we know that as spa owners and leaders, we typically aren't super comfortable with risk. We typically didn't get into this industry from the business aspect of it, meaning that, we didn't go and get an MBA or we didn't go and get, specific business training before we opened up a spa business or a service-based business. Normally, how it works out is, we have a service that, like, we are the service provider. We really love to do this. We feel super purposeful. We want to make a difference in our communities, and we really, really, really love helping people. And as a leader, we wanted to show up as a kind of in a bigger way, to kind of serve that part of our purpose in our life. Now, that's all great. That's the fun stuff when it comes to entrepreneurship in the spa industry. When it comes to the not so fun stuff, it usually has to do with money and numbers and generally, kind of those leadership qualities that many, many spa entrepreneurs don't feel very confident about. I know that in my experience as a new spa owner, I absolutely did not feel confident. I had an inner knowing, I had a natural talent for leading, I had a natural talent for seeing opportunities, I had a natural talent for like researching and looking and figuring out problem solving. And so a lot of my business did really well all on those things on their own. But there does get to a certain place in our businesses that, we do have to make what we would consider risky decisions. And mostly that usually has to do with finances. And so let's talk about that today because that's a huge part of what comes up as a spa leader, as a spa owner. And a lot of time, what I really want to get into today is a lot of times because we as spa entrepreneurs didn't have that business like foundation, we tend to rely on our gut instinct or our intuition for a lot of our business decisions. And while that is very, very important, I would, I'm gonna say like we can't get rid of that. Like we can't say that it's not valuable. It is 100% valuable. But where it gets us into problems is when we only rely on our intuition or our gut instinct or what we think is happening, and we start making, really big financial decisions based on that. So, it's one of those very weak areas in our industry that isn't really talked about a lot until you're in a pickle financially, or until you're in a situation where you might actually be in like literally in, decision analysis paralysis because you don't feel like you can make a wise decision. And so you just sit on it and nothing shifts or changes. So what I want to talk about today is balancing our gut instinct, our intuition in our business with the data. And they have to go together. They can't be one or the other. Now, for certainly, if you are not a heart-centered entrepreneur, go with the data. There's plenty of businesses out there that just run on data. They follow the data. They work towards making the data just like more money, more money, more money. And that's totally fine. But I do know for a fact that in this industry, most of you did not get into business, spa business or service industry business, like massage therapy or chiropractic or physiotherapy, to make a lot of money. I mean, absolutely, that is part of what needs to happen because it's a business and we do need to be rewarded for the work that we're doing. But we do need to pair the data and the intuition when we're making decisions in the spa industry, especially when they come to financial decisions. It's all about, like, we want to use layman's terms, it's called a calculated risk. So we get as much data as we can, pull the research, and then we pair it with what we think and what we know. And if they are lining up, then that would be considered a calculated risk, and we can move forward on that. I know that, in my experience, whenever we feel like we can't make a decision yet, like if we're stuck in that, uh, we're just stuck. Like, I don't know which way to go. Like, I don't know if I should hire a team. I don't know if I should bring in another product line. I don't know whether I should get more training. All of those questions, if you've been stuck with them for a long time, part of it needs a little bit of intuition to kind of float to the surface. The other aspect of it is just you probably don't have enough data to arrive at a decision that feels good for you, and to kind of pair it up with that intuition. So we're going to dive into that today. And I'm going to give you some really practical tips for you to marry your intuition and your data. But first, let's talk about, like, what does it look like in the spa industry when, we're not pairing data up with intuition, where maybe one is maybe we're just working with our gut instinct, zero data. And that's usually what happens in the industry, or it could be the other way around, where we're just looking at data and not using our intuition. So, what are some common scenarios where this kind of shows up? So, the first thing that I see it is when a spa owner thinks that they're ready to hire, particularly they're hiring to increase profitability, to give them more time, give the owner or the leader more time. And this is where we absolutely need data from the business. Like, I'm talking about, um, we're talking about calculating the actual costs of hiring. We're looking at your KPIs, like, are you actually ready to hire? We're looking at, those are the facts, the data. Then we need to pair it with the intuition. Are you ready to be a leader? Do you want to be a leader? Or do you really just want to be in the treatment room and you just want to have more people being served? So that's more of like tapping into your intuition and, gleaning some information about that. I've met some solo spa owners that thought they wanted a team, and once we have a really, very frank conversation, it's really important to have those, because it's a big, big commitment, time, energy, money. And so, I don't want any of you, especially if you're solo and doing quite well, to be misinformed and hire on somebody thinking it's going to increase your profitability, because it actually doesn't. Here's what actually happens: it increases your costs. Hiring increased your costs. You've got to onboard them, train them, coach them. It's going to take them time to be before they've got a solid clientele of their own that can carry them as far as their wages. You're going to have management challenges. And this is where, having that frank conversation of like, do you really, really want to lead? Do you know what is entailed in leading? And are you ready for that? And are you ready to consistently coach and lead? Some people aren't, and that's totally okay. You get to decide. And again, that's where the intuition and gut instinct is like, I don't know if I really want to. Super valuable information. And you saved, if you decide to bin the team building and look at other ways you can leverage your solo business, you just saved yourself a ton of time and money and energy and resources. But, if you've got the data we got the data and we got the intuition, like the gut instinct of like, yeah, I want to lead. Yeah, my numbers are looking really good. And then you're ready to go, right? Perfect. Then we have like the impact of hiring on your profit margins. So most spa owners haven't done those calculated equations. And again, this is what makes it a calculated risk. You've done the calculations. But if you're going from solo to team, you need to redo all your profitability equations, like your cost per treatment. You need to make sure you understand what your labor costs are going to be every month, close enough so that you know what to budget for, especially through those months when they don't have a clientele yet and you are needing to pay them out more than they're bringing in. And then we're looking at, quality versus quantity. if we want to build a team, yes, we can start working on volume of services. But if you aren't really prepared to be like a strong team lead, and you're not prepared with your manuals and you're not prepared with your training program, you're going to lose the quality of your services. And that's really hard to start clawing that back. All right, so hiring, the first thing thought is that hiring is one of those places to grow and increase profitability. Not necessarily, okay? Another place where we see this risk and reward happening is thinking, oh, I'll take more training, I'll add a new service to my menu. We'll add retail lines if we want to sell more retail. Maybe our clients don't really like our retail. Maybe we need something more. Notice the word maybe. You don't know for sure. So, if you go ahead and you add more education, you add more retail, your underlying issues still remain. So if you aren't, so this is where we need the data. We need to look at your productivity. How booked are you? How booked is the spa if you already have a team? If you're thinking about adding another retail line or adding another service provider, you really need to look at your productivity because you are not ready to grow if the spa is under 80% booked. So if you go ahead and buy the new equipment, take the new training, buy the new product line, and you haven't addressed those underlying issues of booking, like being booked enough or selling enough retail, if your retail sales aren't at 30%, as the spa, if each individual service provider isn't at least 30%, you guys have some work to do on your existing retail line in terms of staff and their education. Because adding another skincare line is just going to put more little buckets of money on your retail shelves that are not moving, so they're just stuck there. You've got stuck cash flow. When you build a team, the business gets more complicated. It's just any business when you think about it. When it's small, it's more simple. As we leverage and get bigger, if we add more people, if we add more product lines, if we add, all the thing, adding more things, the business just gets more complex and we need more structure and systems. So that's why if you are planning on building a team and you don't have things like a staff handbook, an operations manual, a spa manager manual, if you don't have your training program like developed out and not just in your head, you got lots of work to do. Another issue, if you're just adding more service and retail lines, is you're diluting the focus. Again, that's the underlying issues are still not resolved. And remember, I said like that inner chatter might be, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. You're uncertain about your demand. You don't know. So this is where we need to pair the data from your booking system with what you're thinking, right? What some other scenarios here? Oh, cutting expenses to reduce your financial risk. So absolutely, but because I do think we can get a little crazy with our spending, especially if we have like shiny object syndrome. And we think that, oh, this must be cool, and there's like new trends happening. Cutting costs may not always reduce the financial risk. So what I'm getting at here is that, you could be harming other aspects if your expenses are already fairly close to the line. So, you don't want to start cutting too many things that start, allowing the guest experience to be compromised. So I'm talking about, like I've seen some shady stuff in my days. I mean, I very briefly worked for a business, they're out of business now, that was using, oh my gosh, they were using ultrasound gel to work with, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Gino, but with the machine and all the stuff that they had, you're supposed to use the proper Gino products, but this company, were having serious cash flow problems. And when I saw what they were using and like basically cutting costs of back bar, but it was absolutely affecting the consumer, the client experience. Thinking that another place where this shows up is like thinking financial risk is only about losing money. But we could be losing opportunities and damaging your brand and overextending your resources when we're not paying attention to the data. Another situation, some owners, I do see this quite a bit where they're like, oh, cash flow, I need money. And, this is business that's feeling super risky financially for me. Like, is it going to be able to pay me? And sometimes where this goes, I'm just going to put my prices up. I'm going to have higher price services. But then you're overlooking the other issues, like maybe you do need some work on your expenses. Maybe you need to work on how your cash flow forecasting works, or even just your profitability margins. So like you don't know some information there. You can't just go willy-nilly. You can, but you don't want to really want to willy-nilly just put up prices just because like, oh my gosh, we're cash strapped. And I do hear this from owners. I'm super cash strapped. I'll just do a price increase. Okay. But do you know what your profitability is? And profitability is not what's left over in your bank account at the end of the month. Profitability is an equation of your services, and it includes the amount of product that you're using. It includes your overhead for that hour, like your whole overhead. It also includes your labor costs. So if you haven't taken those three aspects into consideration for your cost per treatment, it's likely way off. Okay. But just putting up prices isn't the answer. Okay. So what are the actual benefits of like pairing data and intuition in your business? Well, first, it's going to absolutely minimize your risk, your financial risk, because you're going to be able to balance what you feel with actual hard data. And it's really actually kind of fun once you like, most spa owners hate numbers. They don't like working with numbers and finances. I was absolutely the same. Um, but when you know the actual numbers, like in terms of the metrics of where you should be at and comparing them with where you are at, it's really interesting, and it can be really activating and very inspiring to be like, okay, now we actually know all the little spots that need some course correction, because I can see it in the data. I kind of had a feeling, but now I can really see it. Now we can create really strong strategy and move forward. Another really big benefit for you guys is that it just absolutely builds your confidence as a leader. There's nothing worse than having that niggling feeling like, oh, I don't really know, or I don't totally understand how this works. Um, I most recently started working with somebody who came to me it was like, where's my money? I'm busy. I've got money coming in. Where is it all going? I can't see it. I don't understand enough of my report. I don't understand my reports at all in my in Vigaro. I don't really know how to read profit loss or balance sheet from my bookkeeper. Like I just don't know what any of this means. So when you are able to read your data and understand it, God, that's so empowering. Um, and it gives you back a lot of choices. You feel like super empowered and like you're ready to make some good decisions and move forward. Um, Another benefit is building sustainability. When you pair your data with your gut instincts, it absolutely gives you that informed risk management, that calculated risk management. And you, at the end of the day, you just feel like a really strong leader. Okay, so why else am I talking about this at this time? We're in July of 2024. I'm going to bring in numerology, a little bit of woo into this conversation because it is 100% relevant. So July 2024, we're in a 7 energy month with numerology. So how we get to that is we add up July, so it's a 7 plus 2024, 2 plus 2 plus 4. And with the 7 energy, that it's all about fierce faith. And 7 energy can be kind of challenging for a lot of people because, we're not used to having fierce faith. We just want to know how things are going to work out. We want to see it. We have a vision. We want to see it happen really quickly. And so when we are talking about like fierce faith in numerology in our business, man, there's plenty of places that we need fierce faith. And one of those places is when we're making decisions, especially big financial decisions. And so it brings me to this conversation of like how when I can't see the outcome clearly, how do I make a wise decision? And that's where we are with this topic of conversation. We make wise decisions in our business when we can't see the end, when we pair the data with our intuition. We pull it together. So if you have listened to my July numerology forecast, that's one of the big pieces that I talk about is, yeah, we're going to have fear. You are going to be activated to have fierce faith this month for sure. And we get to experience the high vibration of fierce faith, which is using our intellect and our intuition together. Um, we get to be very discerning. That's a very high vibration of the seven. And we want to really make sure we're not getting into those low vibrations of the seven in this month. And that's like getting stuck in that decision paralysis. And when the seven gets stuck in decision paralysis, it kind of loops into like, negative thinking. So this is your prompt for the month of July, that if you are feeling like stuck in paralysis analysis, or you're feeling like I just I you know I'm trying to keep the faith, I'm just not feeling it right now, is to go in and start learning about your data, like start learning how to read your reports. So you can do this on your own if you like. I think most of the softwares like Vigaro, MindBody, Mevo, Jane, Forest, they all have very robust reporting systems. And what you might not know is like kind of where you should be at. So you're going to see your numbers, but you're like, okay, I have nothing to compare them to. What's a good number? What's a bad number? There's no such thing as a bad number. There's just a number that needs a little bit of work and a little bit of strategy with it. So when we're talking about like the tools that we need to have fierce faith to make decisions that are based on data and our intuition, we do need a couple of things to help us out. So one of them is definitely having a client management system. So that is your booking system that has a really great, robust reporting system. I'm not a fan of the smaller ones, just because they don't give as clear reports sometimes. But we can still make do. And if you need support, we can have a coaching call and I can actually walk through your reports and show you which ones you need to look at, because sometimes some of the companies call them by the reports by different names. But anyways, you need a client management tool. So that's your Vigaro, MindBody, Mevo, Jane, that kind of thing. What else do we got here? And then what I would like to recommend for you is that every week, don't leave this, if this is new for you, if like looking at your KPIs is new, don't leave it for the end of the month. Look at them every week and see how things are changing or not changing with just simply the awareness that you have. So I think I already gave you two metrics already that you can look at. So one of them is productivity. That's how booked you are. It might be called something different, but it should be a percentage. And it's how many hours are available versus how many are already sold. So your productivity, you want it to be around 80% before you're making any decisions to hire, to change locations, expand, that kind of thing. If you're below 80%, you're not ready yet. You have a little bit more work to do to build up the clientele. The other metric that is a really big one in the spa industry is retail sales. Fact of the matter is that if you are trying to run your business and grow your business on service sales alone, it is going to be very challenging. Retail is 100% what this industry needs in terms of leveraging your revenues. And it's what the clients need. It's not about pushing sales. It's totally about educating your clients and the consumers about what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. There is so much garbage out online and social media that should be literally your job. Remember that you are working against a lot of stuff that clients have to unlearn. So those are the two metrics. So the retail sales should be at about 30%. Hands down. The harder little niches that will be harder for that will be lashes if you're just a lash artist. If you're waxing, it's a little bit more challenging. Um, and then massage as well, like if you're only doing body work and massage. If you do have facials and skincare, way, way, way easier. But that should be 30%. So if you're below 30%, don't beat yourself up. That's okay. We all have, once you know better, you do better, right? So what I would suggest is picking one of those metrics and for the next month or so, just focus on building up that particular KPI. Look at the numbers every week. Pay attention to what you are doing and what you haven't been doing. So if you like for retail sales, if you have not been doing your skincare prescriptions and giving them to the clients, then let's try shifting that around and see how that works and how it affects your retail sales. All right, now the other method for doing this would be to work with somebody. So 7 energy in numerology is also can tend to be isolated, meaning if you're in the low vibration of that 7 energy, if you're feeling kind of crummy about things, your tendency is to want to like pull away from people and isolate and like, oh, I'll just try to figure it out myself. But with a 7 energy, that is not recommended. And I'm not saying this because I am a coach. I'm saying this because that the energy is very real about feeling isolated and stuck with that 7 energy. So whether you work with an SD bestie or your bookkeeper, or if your dad is a bookkeeper, an accountant, whatever, this month is really supportive of you in terms of getting help. If you do want to explore working together, the training program that I have that specifically works on kind of that data, figuring out the data, like what data do I need to know as a spa owner to increase my profitability? It's my Profit Maximizer training program. So if you are in that space where you're like, I don't know where my money is, I am working my butt off, my team's working hard, but like, where's all the money? You absolutely need to get a handle on that ASAP and course correct it so that A, you know where your money is going, and B, we can plug the holes for where it's leaking. So if you want more information about the Profit Maximizer training program, please reach out to me. You can either email me at kirsten@kirstenfoster.com, or you can DM me on any of the socials that I'm on, and I'm mostly on Instagram and Facebook. I just lurk on TikTok. I'm kind of tempted to start only numerology on TikTok, but I'm not sure yet. I don't want to try it yet, quite yet. Not ready. My intuition's kind of niggling at me. But I'm also pairing that with what I know, my own data is I need to manage my nervous system. I need to manage my day. Do I have enough time to add another social media platform? All right. Let's see. So I prompted you already a little bit, like this is your little call to action. Your compassionate action steps is start working with your KPIs weekly. Integrate those 2 data points, your productivity and your retail sales ratio. And then definitely I would really encourage you to use this also when you are doing any strategic planning. So if you do your strategic planning every quarter, then you should be absolutely bringing out your metrics and pairing it up with what you think and you feel. So doing all sorts of strategy with that is absolutely key. All right, so let's wrap this up. Balancing your intuition and the data in order to minimize your financial risk is exactly where it's at. And you don't have to have an MBA, you don't need to be a banker. You just need to likely do a little bit of research into your metrics. Maybe you could even have like just 1 hour coaching call. If you want to do that with me, your first coaching call is only $100. I think people, I know for a while there before COVID, coaching was getting crazy on single session calls. And I've dropped my prices just because I've wanted it to be far more accessible for somebody to be, I just need to pick your brain for an hour or I have this idea or like the situation like, hey, can we get like a high level overview of profitability in my business? Can we talk about it? And we can kind of hammer out a bunch of stuff in that hour. But regardless, I know that this is a topic that a lot of spa owners struggle with is like, feeling super uncomfortable with financial decisions and like, like not knowing how to make a risky financial decision. And so here we are, we make a calculated risk using data and pairing it with our intuition. All right, that's it for today's Spa Business Mastery. I will be back in about 10 days or so for a marketing episode. And be sure to give me a follow. And if you have any situations where you've had, as far as like financial risk and not, the risk and reward didn't necessarily pay off, or maybe it did pay off. How did that work for you? It's always really helpful for new spa owners who are listening to the podcast, or even existing spa owners who have just kind of been on the struggle bus for a long time and can't quite figure it out. Hearing your experiences and how you problem solved out is so, so helpful for this industry. So feel free to leave any feedback about what your experience is on any of my social platforms. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook. We'll see you next time on the Spa Business Mastery Podcast.